We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
I got this feeling inside my bones. It goes electric wavy when I turn it on. Off from my city.
Hello and welcome to our first show of Del and Debi's Mind, Body, Soul, and everything in between. Welcome. We're so excited.
Hi, I'm Del, and I'm at AD Jones, and I'm a relationship and divorce coach, and along with Debi, who is a wellness coach.
And we welcome you to our very first show today. We're very excited. We have a guest on that we're going to right away get some talk going right into stress and aging, which everybody is doing. We're all aging every single day, and we all have a little bit of anxiety about it, and we're going to talk about that today. And we welcome you. Our show is here. It's an interactive show, so we want you to come and join the talk. We'll talk about it. We'll give you the number in a little bit once our discussion gets going.
So, as part of our series on wise women, we have the renowned author, Lucinda Bassett, and also self-help guru, who has wonderful advice, as Debi said, for people that are aging and well, not aging, Lucinda, you look so gorgeous.
Oh, sure. Stop, don't stop. Oh, stop, please, don't stop.
Well, you have just such incredible words of wisdom to share with people around some of the stress people feel about aging and getting older, and especially living in California and
Los Angeles,
City
of
in
Angels.
Particular. Exactly. So
yes.
What can you share with us about what you've experienced?
Well, I just turned 60 this year, which was very exciting. And just to give people just a little bit, yay, that's what I say. I'm still breathing. I can still walk. That's good. And just to give a little bit of history about me, I've written 4 books on anxiety and panic disorder and healing and even grief. And my career started in my 20s, and I was quite beautiful then, full of energy.
As you are now.
Really ornery, thank you. But and then I wrote a couple of books and created a product for anxiety and depression that's used all over the world, just to give you guys who might be listening just a little bit of credibility on me so that you know that I am the real deal. And I know what I'm talking about. And back then when I wrote a book called From Panic to Power. And I was 35 years old when I wrote the book, and I happened to be fortunate enough to go on Oprah 3 times and some of the other shows. And anxiety was very prominent back then when I was in my 30s, especially for women, because the roles started changing. And women, our parents and our mothers were. When my mother was 30, she was not a stay-home mother, but she worked in a factory. But a lot of our mothers were, and we're not. And a lot of women now, and back when I was 35, were working and trying to balance it all, be a mother, be a wife, put the food on the table, do the homework, and it was exhausting. And so I came up with this idea for a product for anxiety, and it really skyrocketed back then. I mean, we had 120 employees, and I helped over 1 million people overcome anxiety and depression. And why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this not to sell books, although that wouldn't be a bad thing, but I'm telling you because what we have discovered and what I've discovered in the last couple of years is that this is also the age of anxiety, and there's a group of people called the millennials, which are people under 30, and I happen to have a couple of children, and I know you do too.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're really stressed and anxious now more than ever before. Mm-hmm. And reason being, and the reason this also affects us as 50-somethings, okay? I'm now 60-something, I'm older
We're
than
right
both of you.
there behind you.
Yeah, but I'm
here.
this close, so
okay, well, wait till you hit 60.
Right
it
there.
just does something.
Yeah, I hear
But anyway, the thing is, we're at a time and an age of anxiety that's really, really prevalent. And a lot of it is because, believe it or not, there's so much social media out there. We're all sitting at home looking at Facebook going, well, Mary Smith's 58. She only looks 45. And she's dating that great 38-year-old guy. She's driving a Ferrari. I'm talking about LA. I know this probably is not happening in Toledo, Ohio, but you never know. And
but I think it's an East Coast, West Coast thing. And so my question to you, because you are getting the ball rolling, but my question to you is, that's what age seems to devalue us, because there's so much value in youth. And because of social media and because of shows like the Kardashians and material things and aesthetic things, including their bodies and what they're wearing and their makeup and their hair, is, how they gain their followers. How do we, as we age, keep up with that and still feel valued?
Well, there's so many things that we can do, but I think that another thing that we're looking at, just because I'm listening to you and I'm thinking about the Kardashians and I'm thinking about all the, the social media, and I'm thinking about the fact that 65-year-old men who used to want to date 65-year-old women are now taking
Another
Viagra.
problem.
And so they can date 30. Well, but this is the truth.
It's another problem.
So our husbands who used to, have a little bit of sexual dysfunction at in their 50s, or had our energy level or whatever, we all kept up with each other in our 50s. Now they're out there taking Viagra and they're thinking, you know what, I can keep up with someone in their 30s, and we're still sitting here in our 50s going, I want to keep up. Here's the other thing. So how to get to your question, which is the show, how do we deal with this? I think the first thing we have to do is understand there is a problem, and that this is a different age that we live in, and that what you're seeing on the front of People magazine, Christy Brinkley at 62 years old, or Kathy Griffin, the comedian, on New Year's last year when she took her clothes off and was in her bikini top, and she's had her body, completely redone from head to toe. And she, by the way, she's 55 and she looks stunning. And here we sit, 40 pounds overweight, 58 years old, looking at our skin and our double chin and going, I can't see without my reading glasses. How do I compete?
Right.
And so it's a very, very personal thing for everybody. There are some people that are happily married to an equal partner who really are okay with growing old gracefully. And then there are people like me and like you ladies. Of course, Del's got an incredible boyfriend, but and maybe you do too. I haven't talked to you for a while. But we're out there dating again.
Right.
And we really have to keep it up. We got to keep our mojo going. We have to keep our energy up. We have to keep our skin looking amazing. We have to be sexually into, having orgasms. We gotta attract men. And how does
a lot of pressure?
It's
a lot of it's a different kind of pressure than our kids have, and that our 20 and 30 somethings have, because it's a different criteria.
Well,
right?
I have to jump into, because I what's occurring in my head as I'm listening to you is, you're hanging out in the wrong places. Because I wouldn't think for one second. Admittedly, when I was about 47, I was a painter, and I started doing some self-portraits, and I was like, oh my God, I'd never paid so much attention to my face, and saw the wrinkles, and you're just studying yourself for hours on end. So I went through that crisis probably 10 years ago. But now I just feel like, and maybe it's the profession I'm into, because it's not as Debi is in the physical fitness world. In coaching, as you know, it seems like to be older is actually an advantage. And the older and wiser you are, and the more human you are, the more relatable you are. So I think I have a little easier time with that, accepting, my aging.
Well, and I think, and Lucinda, you can probably validate this, but I think accepting aging also comes with accepting yourself and self-care. Because if you take good care of yourself, if you look good and you feel good and you're at a place in your life, you have a career that satisfies you, and you definitely know that things are still moving forward, you're not going the other way, I think that's a positive place to be. And then you almost look forward to the future, even though physically, we can, exercise, good diet, a whole list of things help us look younger, but to feel younger is helping us look younger. And so we have to get to the place in our life. It's not just...
I think you both made some really great points I want to touch on. I want to first start off with Del's comment of you're looking in the wrong places, because I think that was brilliant. And I think the part of the problem, whether you're 30 or 60, because Debi, you mentioned, I think it's different for the generations, but in some ways it's not. My daughter's 30 and I see her girlfriends struggling to meet men. Mm-hmm. And now it's all about, Tinder and Match.com and Plenty of Fish. And you look online and it's like, I'm going to flip to the left and I'm flipping to the right. Does anybody really care if you have a heart and a soul and you're spiritual? And I think that's another thing that we're dealing with in 2016 is that where you used to meet people at church and you used to meet people through friends, and they knew, as Del said so beautifully there, that you're a person of character and you're a mature woman with a good heart, and that you and Debbie, like you said, you're out there with your career feeling good about yourself. Now everything moves so fast, and everybody's on Tinder and Match.com, and the first thing they look at your face.
Yeah.
And then they read your little brief paragraph and they go, I'm flipping to the left and I'm flipping to the right. Maybe I'll talk to you. And so it's huge. If you're in a wonderful relationship with someone that loves you and gets you, it's easier to age because you're not aging feeling insecure.
True.
But I'll just use me, if you're me and you're 60 years old and you're single and then it's a different place. But even if you're 30 years old and you're single, it's a whole different criteria now. But to Debbie's point, so much of it is about taking care of yourself physically, and we're not doing that. What we're speaking to is a generation of women who are turning 50 and saying, what do I do next? Because where 55 used to mean you retire and you go off into the sunset with your husband and you travel and your kids are giving you grandbabies down the road, so many, 50% of divorces end up, 50% of the relations end up in divorces. And here you've got these 50-something women trying to reinvent themselves professionally. Try to go out there at 55 years old and say, well, I did work 20 years ago, but I don't know what I'm going to do now. We went through a divorce and I need to make a living and I want my kids to respect me. Oh, and I'm supposed to date?
Yes,
Oh
it's
my God.
reinvention, and I'm here to tell you I've lived it, you
Yeah.
know, so I'm
And me.
living it, and I am single and almost 59 years old. So I have and I also have a daughter who's 30. Our daughters are friends, and I see her friends. She does have a long-term boyfriend. Your daughter's married, but I see their criteria is a little different. They want to set up a household. I'm moving towards the third act, and so I'm looking for a gentleman that's probably also moving towards the third act, which you said is traveling and not taking work at a 24/7 attitude. It is a different type of swiping, but it still comes down to the same thing. If you're online dating, it comes down to the same thing. It's an initial look that either attracts you or doesn't. And in your 20s and 30s, you've got the look,
Exactly.
And when you're this age, it's a little harder to maintain what you think is going to be attractive to somebody else your age, or in some cases a little younger, a little older.
I also
And-
think
Go
it's
ahead.
I also think it's got an awful lot to do with the internet, because when we were 20, you'd meet somebody in a pub or a bar or a restaurant or a friend, and you'd get to know them a bit, and yes, you're initially attracted, but you're also like sort of entertained. They're funny, they're interesting, you have time to develop. And we weren't so global back then either, so it wasn't. Now it's, as you say, it's like, I call it Costco shopping. It's like, there's so many things on the shelf, so many people on the shelf in Match.com, and it's like, I'll choose this one, oh, I'm taking it back, I'll get another one. And it's just this shopping and comparing, and the world is, a lot of people feel that the world is just at their feet. They can choose anybody they want. And
buffet.
it is a buffet.
It's a buffet. You
exactly.
just keep going back for more. Oh, well, that was good, but you know what? I bet there's something better.
Well, and
So
then
I'm
you
going to go
sit-
check it out.
Then you sit by yourself at night and there's nobody there, and you're looking at the Tinder and the Match.com and you're going, "Ugh, I'm still alone and the house is quiet, and where has time gone, and am I going to end up this way?" And you can look beautiful,
hear you.
and you can feel beautiful, and you're an amazing woman, or a man, to be honest with you. And you're sitting there going, I'm 57 years old. Where am I going to be 10 years from now? And the truth is, I think what we really have to do is step back and take a breath and realize 60 is the new 50. And that, if you get out and put yourself in situations, and I know this is going to sound trite, but it is so true. Join organizations, join clubs, go to the gym, go to places other than restaurants and bars, because you can meet people there too, and reach out and let people know you. A lot of it is the energy you put out when you're out there. If you put out great, positive, fun energy, you're going to attract people. I've seen it with both of you ladies, and I know it with myself. It's a lot of it is the energy that you put out there. And if you're looking for someone, know what you're looking for, know what your criteria is, and write it down. And, Del and I are both really, really big on on really manifesting and setting your intentions and being deliberate. I mean, I know exactly what kind of man I'm looking for now, and it's very different than the kind of man, as you said, Debbie, I was looking for when I'm 25. But you do have to know, what kind of man do you want to date? What exactly are you looking for? What's your criteria? And you have to put yourself out there, and you have to be vulnerable. And by the way, those dating sites, they're not so bad. There's lots of opportunity out there.
I know.
Well,
I can speak to that.
Yeah,
I
you have a long-term
I met
boyfriend.
my boyfriend on Match, and I was so against it. I was like, it's awful, and I want to do it naturally. And a very good friend of mine pointed out that really nice guys are working during the day, and they're taking, if they're older, they have children to take care of, they're not hanging out in bars and restaurants that you can bump into naturally. And it was a great opportunity to, what I did was I used it as an exercise in just getting out and being social. And also,
can we tell what you actually did? I love what you really did.
Okay, go and tell.
Let's tell
I've forgotten it.
So I just happened to be one of her good friends, and I was walking that walk with her at the time. And I remember when her therapist suggested, you need to get, and I'm sitting there helping her try to, get the site up and everything. Come on, Del, I know you can do, beautiful woman. But she'd been in a long marriage, and, it's tough to go back out there. And her therapist had a really brilliant idea. He said, didn't he say go out 12 guys?
10.
10? I don't think it'd be a great book. He said, just go out with 10, make up your mind. You're going to date 10 different guys. And I think you met your guy on date 3 or 4.
No, actually, he was the first one I dated.
Oh, there you have it.
But I did
kept
continue.
dating.
I kept
Yeah,
dating
yeah.
other men, and
That's okay.
I got about 6, and I just thought, I can't keep doing this. I'm not a really good dater. But I was very fortunate. The other criteria I used, which was brilliant, was I just really looked at the books that they were reading. And if they were reading like Sports Illustrated, I knew I didn't have anything in common. And if they were reading books that just showed a more soulful person or somebody that was intelligent, that's what was the criteria for me. And I thought, I'm just meeting somebody. We're going to talk about books. It's not about, is he the one or not? And it worked. I mean, it just really did. I met great guys, really great guys.
I always tell my friends, get on Tinder, get on Match, get on Plenty of Fish, do whatever you want to do. Not that we're promoting any one site, but I think a lot of people kind of like Tinder right now because it's just a very quick solution. But the idea is, you can go out, you can have a date every night, you can meet someone for a glass of wine. It's something to do. It's social. But I think the other important thing that we want to stress, no pun intended, is that it's I guess I have to get to break and we get to talk about this fun thing next.
Okay.
Well, we are LA Talk Live. This is Del and Debbie's Mind, Body, and Soul and everything in between. And we're going to be right back. I think we have a caller and we can take a question when we come back. And we'll give out the number in just a few minutes again. Thank you. We'll be right back after this break.
Hi, I'm Lady Jones, and I'm a certified relationship and divorce coach.
And I'm Debbie Carlin Boyle, and I'm a certified personal trainer, fitness, and wellness coach. Join us every Tuesday, 2 p.m. Pacific, for our new show, Del and Debbie's Mind, Body, Soul, and everything in between.
And we mean everything.
Join the conversation on things such as living a happy, healthy, joyous life,
Reinvention after divorce, parenting challenges, dating issues.
thrive with beauty and grace, and yes, we're even gonna talk sex.
Starting September, join us Tuesdays, 2 p.m. Pacific, for Del and Debbie's Mind, Body, Soul, and become part of the discussion exclusively on latalklive.com.
You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, and now live on Facebook, or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening and viewing pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk. Welcome back to Dell and Debbie's Mind, Body, and Soul, and everything in between. Our guest today is Lucinda Bassett. And if you'd like to call in, and we're talking about age and the anxiety and stress that comes along with it. We've got a great discussion going so far. Our call-in number is 323-473-3100. And we actually have a caller holding online right now, and we'll take that question if that's okay, Lucinda.
Let's go to that caller. Caller, are you with us?
Hello?
Hello?
Hello.
Are you there? Are you there? They panicked. They had anxiety, and they hung up.
We lost our caller. You can join our conversation, though, if you like.
We'd love you to call in. It's 323-473-3100 and ask us any questions. I'm Lucinda Bassett, and I'm honored to be with these beautiful women who happen to be two very good friends of mine, talking about the age of anxiety and the anxiety of aging. And we are living in a time in 2016 that is very turbulent. We're going through an election. I think a lot of people are dealing with the unknown of what that election is going to result in. We live in a time, as they were both talking about earlier, where there's so much social media exposure that, you know, we see everything that happens abroad. There's terrorism, there's the economy, there's the election. And so when you're sitting there as a 50-something woman, which is kind of what we're focusing on right now, it's really scary to do it alone. I think that's another thing, you know. It's not just as simple as, gee, I'd like to find a guy, but that's a big part of it. But a lot of it is, where do you land in your 50s to feel safe? And safe is such a big word. And what does safe mean when you're 55 years old and your kids are gone, and you know, and you're divorced, or you're a widow, or you're just on your own? And it's really scary. And you don't want to sit around your house at night, you know, watching, you know, American Idol and having 3 glasses of wine and popping a sleeping pill at night. But guess what? That's what you're probably doing. Statistics prove that the use of anti-anxiety medication and antidepressants is higher than ever. Women are alcoholics. And it's really sad but true. And a woman becomes an alcoholic a little bit different than a man. And if you're listening now and you're wondering if you have a drinking problem, if you think you do, you probably do. If you're someone that's drinking every day and you're drinking 3 or 4 glasses of wine a night, you're probably using alcohol to self-medicate for what could probably be anxiety and depression. And then there's a whole nother element that comes into play in your 40s and 50s, and that's hormones. So we're struggling. You know, some women are taking hormones. Some women, like me, I can't take hormones. And so what happens is we fall into this trap of, well, you know, I'm not having periods anymore. I don't really feel quite as sexual as I used to. And then you got this whole thing of, you know, and I'm starting to get a little flabby and I'm bloated, and you go talk to doctors about hormones, and then maybe you can take them, maybe you can't. You might end up on an antidepressant, and that's going to affect your sex drive, and that's going to cause you to gain weight. Now you've got multiple problems.
So I want to address that. I do some writing for the Malibu Chronicle and on health and fitness, and I am, which I didn't say in the beginning, but I should have. I am becoming a certified wellness coach and nutritionist, and one of the things that I researched for this article that I wrote last year was called. It was called "Everything You Need to Know About Aging: The 7 Essentials of Aging," and what I discovered, and what this article touched on, is the most empowering thing about aging is to educate yourself. And that's true about every subject. But like you said, the loss of hormones, there's bone loss, there is muscle loss, there is our heart slows down as we age. There's all these elements of things that happen, and we need to know about them so we can adjust to them. And when you adjust, that gives you confidence and power and the energy that you need to keep moving forward and not getting depressed. I also, Lucinda, I'm not sure if you know this, but I work at Cliffside Malibu, which are drug and alcohol rehabilitation centers. And I work with a lot of addicted people in drug and alcohol. And like you said, people turn to drugs and alcohol, and especially I see the over 40 somethings and up turning to alcohol because there's something in their life that's missing. There's depression over a loss. There's those elements of the self-care hasn't been there, and there's like a lot of branches that go along with the self-care. One of the branches is, of course, healthy relationships. A lot of times I find that there's been a lack of healthy relationships, a healthy relationship in the client that has turned to alcohol. Or it could have something to do with they're not eating a proper diet. What we put in our bodies is got a lot to do with how we feel and how we look, how our skin looks. And if we're looking back in the mirror and we're not looking at something that's pleasing to us, it's probably got something to do with the fact that we're not moving and the fact that we're not eating correctly. And then is the spiritual part of it, is having something that's a little bit more beyond just the here and the now, but something that gives you love and life, that gives you opportunity to go out and give back. Because when we are a whole person, when all those elements in our life have come together, we can give back. And really that's what life is about, is being at a point where you're so confident about what you know and what you do and who you are that you can give back in that capacity. And I find that in the addiction category that something or a few of those somethings are missing, are lacking, are void. And those are the things that need filling up so you can feel good enough about yourself to not try to numb it. And it's a problem, like you said. It's an epidemic.
Well, something you were saying earlier, which really struck me, was when you said that, we're so overblown with all the social the stuff that we get either via news or social media. We're feeling catastrophes all around the world. I mean, our sort of nervous system isn't designed for that. I mean, we were sort of villagers that could only take what was happening in our immediate environment, and now we're exposed to everything that's going on in the world. But something you said that struck me was when you said wanting a partner to feel safe in the world. And I know that you personally really went through a journey because you had so much loss in your life and so much change that you ended up going through this journey that took you to a place where you actually find that safety within yourself. And I was wondering if you can share that with us.
Well, I think that what I find in my practice is that the thing that people struggle with the most, whether they're 25 or 55, is time by themselves, being alone, being in the moment, which is where we all are anyway. And Del, I know in your practice as a divorce coach and just a personal coach, you work a lot on that, and you've done a lot of teaching and a lot of studying in that, and that truly is one of the hardest things for a person to get comfortable with, is to sit by themselves and do anything, whether it's eat at home or watch a movie or read a book or sit on the back deck or do nothing. I personally suck at it, just to be honest with you. I hate it. And
I had a lot of practice.
I've had to practice too. And
Yeah.
here's what I want to say. It doesn't scare me. I can totally do it. I live alone. I can travel alone. But one of the beautiful things about living in 2016 is that it's okay to get help from people like us, and it's okay if you don't want to be alone, and it's okay if you're okay alone. And I think that for me to realize that I'm just somebody that likes to be with people. I could go travel right now by myself to Europe, but I'd rather take somebody with me because I'm not someone that likes to do things alone that much. But I'm comfortable being alone, and I think a lot of it comes from, I think, Debi, you hit on some really important things. If you're out there eating junk and putting junk in your body and you're drinking too much, and a lot of people drink because they're bored and because it becomes a habit and because they're depressed. And so if you're sitting down at night to watch, a movie, or if you're out at dinner with a girlfriend, the natural thing to do is to have a glass of wine. I do it. What's not natural is if it becomes 4 glasses of wine, or you get home from the 2 and have 2 more. And then you really need to get help somewhere. Talk to your doctor, talk to your friends, get out and join a gym. In other words, instead of, because it's like, well, what do I do? Because, sometimes psychologists can be worthless. I hate to say it, but so I'm going to tell you what to do. If you're sitting there right now listening to all of us and you're saying, maybe I drink too much. Maybe maybe I'm taking a little too much Xanax, or maybe I'm taking sleeping pills every night, or maybe I'm smoking a little too much weed. Okay. And again, how much is too much? If you think you're doing too much of any of it, you probably are. What can you replace that with? That's really key. And, like, could you join a church? You said something about spirituality. Could you give your time to do something, just anything, whether you go read book to kids at night or join some organization? Maybe you're somebody maybe you'd like to go study a language. I know this sounds trite and stupid, but it isn't. Sign up for a cooking class, fill your time, go to the gym at night instead of sitting at home by yourself drinking wine, and get out there and get on Tinder and start dating. What it's really about, it's about living proactively at 50 something instead of sitting back and letting life pass you by, because nobody wants a negative, miserable person. And I'll tell you something else, your kids don't want to hear it. And if you're there bitching and whining and complaining, I don't want to hear it. If you want to call in, I'll listen. If you want to call in, 323-473-3100, we will let you whine. You can whine here. That's what these ladies are here for. But typically, the mistake that a lot of women make is they end up becoming, and we've all said this, I don't want to end up like my mother. My mother was a whiner and a complainer and a victim. She was a really lovely woman. She was a lot of great things, but God forbid I end up like that. And yet I turn around sometimes and I find myself going, but there's nobody out there, to my 30-year-old daughter who doesn't want to hear it because she hears it from her girl. There's nobody out there to date, and everybody wants to date 30-year-old. And all my friends have boyfriends. And she's like, Mom, I don't want to hear it. So please remember, if you get nothing else from me today, your kids are not your therapist, and they really don't want to hear it. So that leads me to, you really, really need a good support system, and great girlfriends are so important. And if you don't have them, it's your fault. Get out there and get them, and you've got to pick up the phone and call them. The phone goes 2 ways, and make time to spend time with people in your life that you'd like to have in your life. And by the way, try to make those people positive people, because your negative energy can breed negative energy. So look around and say, hey, which of these people in my life, maybe I don't even know them that well, but I really like how they live and I like their energy. I'd like to hang out with them. Ask them out. Ask them out to dinner. Ask them out for a glass of wine, just as I've told you not to drink too much.
No, but what you're saying is, well, I see this. I work with addiction, and I work with all personality types. And I see those that won't get off the couch and don't feel motivated enough, even now that they're sober, because I work at one sober living and one detox. So while they're detoxing, all bets are off. We wait for them until they have some energy. It's my job to say, hey, there's another way to get high, and it doesn't have to do with drugs and alcohol. It has to do with your endorphins. It's a hormonal thing, and you can secrete that endorphin just by moving. And guess what? That's what we're going to do today. And as soon as they're ready for me, I start to see the different personalities, and it's amazing to see when they're off the drugs and they stop self-medicating and they start letting things happen because they're moving, because now they're being cooked for and they're eating right and they're sort of on the road to recovery, if you will, that they start to feel better. You can see them stand up straighter. Their skin color changes. Their eyes get larger and brighter. Their hair, they suddenly start doing it, fixing it. They are standing up straighter. Their stride is happier. Their attitude is much more vibrant. And then I start to, I feed on that, and then we keep going up a notch on that. And it's my job to help them once they leave, whether it's a 30 or a 60 or a 90-day program. But once they leave, is to take the tools I give them, and to take it on the road with them and to keep that going. And what I know for sure is if your diet and your exercise changes, everything else about you feeling depressed and everything else about trying to fall asleep at night and numb yourself and not feeling validated or attractive to others anymore or wanted, that changes, because all of a sudden the way you feel and the fact that you know that you've got the power within you to change, and you do it, you actually implement it. I see people spiral to the top. I see it, and I do keep in touch with some of them. And the younger ones tend to relapse. It's very hard. It's usually 2, 3, 4 times in rehab until it actually sets in. I'm killing myself. I'm slowly but surely destroying my body. But the older, the 40 and up, they're usually there to say, I've had it. I've been here enough. I have kids. I have value, and I'm going to go find it and seek it. And it's my job to help them realize that.
Well, I also wanted to jump in here for a second with there are some people that are going to be listening that are actually introverts, and I think some of the suggestions are amazing for if you are an extrovert and you feed off energy with other people and being with other people. But there's some people that really it's okay to be an introvert too. It's okay to want to spend time alone. It's not a negative thing. It's not a depression because you like to be internal. But also that when you were talking about feeling safe, that when you've had so many things in your life that have changed that were not within your control, that really it's working on that safety within yourself. And that is an internal journey. It's a spiritual journey. I remember when I felt my life was falling apart, I drew this little stick figure of myself on a boat that was like completely on its side, and it didn't have any side railings on it, and this massive wave. And that's literally how I felt, was I am just going to slide off board. And then I drew another stick figure, and I had my legs apart on this one, and I was actually sort of balancing myself. And I really realized that the only thing that could save me was myself, by learning to balance on this ship that was completely on its side and these massive waves crashing down. And that there were going to be no barriers, and they sometimes weren't going to be people around to rescue me. And it had to be something internal that I reached, that I knew that sort of whatever came my way, I could cope. And
can I ask you,
Sure.
What was the turning point that made you realize that?
I think the silly little drawing that I actually saw, that I couldn't control drawing rails around me or stopping the ocean from, massive waves tilting the boat over. It was really just finding balance within myself and sort of going with the flow of what was going on, not resisting it, it was just really that balance. And I actually, when I went through my dark night of the soul, I really I went on an internal journey. I didn't date for a year. I just wanted to find out, as I put it then, how did I get to this point? And I just knew that I couldn't blame other people. I knew I had to go inside and heal something in myself so that I wasn't going to repeat it. And the best way to do that was to spend time alone obviously with my children, which were my life. But and it worked. It was amazing. I learned so much, and I'm happy to say that I've been in a relationship now for almost 7 years, and it's just a beautiful, kind, loving, supportive relationship. And if I hadn't done that internal journey and I hadn't been alone to really go inside, I don't think I would have probably repeated the same pattern I'd repeated in all my previous relationships. I was addicted to the drama and the chaos of my childhood, and so as well, along with the physical and the eating and the getting out and socializing, I really wanted to stress that it's equally as important to go on that solitary journey as well. And some people call it, finding your spirituality, or we're about to go to break here, but we'll be back with Lucinda Bassett and more about aging and anxiety, and she has some wonderful answers for us. And if you would like to call in, we are live at 323-473-3100, and we would love to hear from you and any questions you have for the fabulous Lucinda Bassett, who will tell it as it is.
Yeah, we'd love to hear your story, too. So do call us, 323-473-3100, because we want to help. We want to help you if you have a friend or you're going through something, or, something's resonated with you that we've been talking about. Come tell us. We'd love to hear from you.
But you, when you dance, feel good creeping up on you. So just dance,
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and hosts of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Elena, inviting you to join me every Wednesday at noon for Elena's Beauty Talk and more, exclusively on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Starlet Quarles, and I'm inviting you to join us every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People. Join us as we discuss the topics that are relevant to today's generational leaders. So don't forget to tune in to The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People, every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. right here on latalklive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch and listen directly at latalklive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Welcome back. We're Del and Debbie, Mind, Body, and Soul, and everything in between, talking to the most accomplished and wonderful Lucinda Bassett. We're talking about ageism, feeling devalued, stress, panicking over, having our social media so heavily present all around us, and how do we balance life and everything that we're physically, mentally, and emotionally going through as we age. And we welcome you to call in if you have a question. And we were just on a subject that we want to continue with.
Yeah, I just wanted to actually, for those viewers and listeners that are inspired by Lucinda's words of wisdom here, I'd like her to give her website and how to contact you, because she is a personal coach and an extremely sought-after personal coach, but she does do a special 10-minute introduction if you have any questions. So, Lucinda, why don't you introduce yourself again?
Well, I do one-on-one coaching, and I have a website. If you just go to lucindahelps.com, that will take you to my website, Truth Be Told. And I do offer a free 10-minute consultation to see if you're someone that would be a good candidate for personal coaching with me. I focus mostly on anxiety and depression, but I really do everything: stress, anxiety, and depression, and grief. And I'd be honored to talk to you. And again, I'll do a free 10-minute call. And all you've got to do is go to the website, lucindahelps.com, and you can set up a call with my assistant, and we'll get you scheduled in like a couple of weeks. So.
Okay, wonderful. And as somebody that knows Lucinda very well, she is amazing. And this is an incredible opportunity to have a chat with her and see if it's a working relationship between the two of you.
I appreciate that, and I want to address the issue of balance, because when you think of a chair has 4 legs, or a table. And if you took off one of the legs, what's going to happen to that table? It's going to fall over. And I think one of the things that we see in this millennium that we're in and the times that we're in right now is that people are they're not balanced, And so sit back and take a moment after the show today and just write down the categories that matter to you. Maybe it's spirituality, maybe it's relationships, maybe it's health, maybe it's finances, maybe it's family. But where are you putting 50% of your time? Is it worry? Is it fear? So often you are a result of your thoughts. And Debbie, you were saying it's so important, the food that you put in your body. Well, I'm here to tell you it's so important the food for thought that you put in your brain, because you are what you think. And you can be the most beautiful woman in the world, but if you're sitting there anticipating the future or worrying about the past and feeling like a victim and wondering why you're not happy and complaining a lot about the way that you feel or the way that you look or how old you are or that your kids aren't around enough or you don't have enough friends, or no one's going to want to be around you. And so that's when I encourage you to go to pick up the phone and call Del as a coach, or go see Debbie for any physical training. If you want to get my book or call me, I'm around. But the reason that I say that is because you really need support. It's really hard to do it all alone. You need somebody. I can't tell you how many times these women have been support systems for me. I don't know what I would do without my support systems. And you really have to stop and ask yourself, are you a reactive person or a proactive person? And the people that I work with are reactive. What does that mean? You know, if you're a worrier, if you're over analytical, if you think too much, if you criticize people, if you criticize yourself, if you're a what if thinker, then you're making yourself sick. And when you fill yourself with these worrisome, scary thoughts, you release sodium lactate, adrenaline, and cortisol, and that causes rapid heartbeat, and that causes trouble sleeping, and it causes you to feel anxious, and that might be why you reach for that glass of wine or you go talk to your doctor about an antidepressant. But if you get up and you start moving, and it's interesting too, when I was listening to Debi talk about exercise, I remember when I first started exercising, and I got on that exercise bike, and the very first time I did it, I remember going, oh my God, how can I do this? And the second time I did it, I dressed up a little bit better, and I felt a little bit better about myself. My hair was in a ponytail. And by the fifth or sixth time I was doing it, I was addicted to it, And so don't think you're going to feel good when you first start exercising or getting out and walking or getting out and socializing a little bit or going to a church for the first time. You have to get involved. You have to let yourself feel the experience. It has to become something that you become addicted to, and it takes time. Any good habit, and I'm suggesting you replace bad habits with good habits, but anything like that takes time.
It's baby steps. Everything is baby steps. You can't, it's like going on a diet. You're 40 pounds overweight. 40 pounds doesn't come off in 2 days, a week, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It takes time, but it's one little progress moment at a time, starting, okay, what's the first step I need to do? All right, I'm going to cut out sugar, or I'm not going to cut out all sugar, but I'm going to cut out anything that's refined sugar. So that's your first step. And then down the line as it goes. And that's with anything in life that you need to start to make your life better. And I do have one visual when you were talking, an exercise, if you will, that you could do. And what it is just get a piece of paper, pencil, pen, make a circle, and put spokes in that circle. And then in the spokes, what you want to do is write joy, relationships, exercise, food or diet, finances, and rest, fun. And you're going to put together those spokes, that circle, and then what you're going to do is you're going to place dots in the center. The lines, the spokes meet in the middle like a wheel. And what you're going to do is the things that, let's say in your finances, are not going that well, those are going to go down lower on the wheel. The things, but you do have a good relationship or good relationships in your life, but that goes higher on the wheel. And you go through all those spokes and you put a little dot and then you connect the dots. You have a visual now of where your life stands in all those elements. Spirituality is in there too. And you can see visually all the highs and the lows. And if you start you can see where your lows are, and then you can take the baby steps to change them, to take those dots up the spoke of the wheel. And in a month or so, let's say, you do it again and place those dots and see where your life is taking you at that point and compare where you were a month before, and now you have a visual of your progress. And it's just, everything that we see concrete becomes that we can. For me, I'm a visual person, so yes, positive thinking, very important. But I know in the life coaching and in all coaching fields that there are exercises and things that you do visually that really help you see it, and that way you can manifest it a little bit better.
Well, I want to, actually one of the books that Lucinda wrote was called The Solution, and that is jam-packed full of excellent techniques like you just described for helping you get over anxiety, depression, being stuck, being in fear. And as you said, Lucinda, just becoming, instead of a reactive person, a proactive. And to
let's talk about the difference of reactive and proactive just for a second so people are clear. It's reactive is when someone upsets you, whether they hurt your feelings or make you angry, and you do what you always do, you're going to get the same result. Proactive, one just really quick example is you say to yourself, I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to take 10 minutes to 24 hours before I react to this, so that I can react in a proactive way that's going to have a positive effect on me, my children, the other person in my life that this affects. So it's really just learning how to react and think and behave in a way that's more positive and proactive, so that you can get on with your life and live out the next, because I'm 60. Hopefully I'm one of those people that say I can always tell what kind of an attitude a person has when you say, how old do you want to be? How old do you want to live till? When somebody says, 85, I'm like, I want to live to be 120.
Me too.
See?
Me
And
too. That's why I do what I do.
What's the alternative, right?
Yeah. No.
And so I think what we really need to do now in our 50s is realize we're probably going to be around for another 30 years. What do you want to do when you grow up?
Oh.
And a lot of it's just about what we're talking about today, making healthy choices, choosing healthy friends, watching the language and the way that you speak to yourself, getting support from people like you guys if you need support, and we all need support, and just thinking, and by the way, I have so many friends who started completely new careers in their 50s.
Yeah, reinvention.
Yeah.
My mother did. I mean, she still runs her business, and she's turning 90.
Your mother's an incredible example of that.
I know. When you
Good
said,
role model.
not wanting to be. Thank you. Yeah.
I thought about you. I know you disagree with that one.
Yes, I do. Unfortunately, I'd love to be like my mother, and
Yes.
also my auntie. I mean, we come from a long line of very healthy, strong women that live beyond 100, and so I'm hoping that I'm around the same amount of time, and again, just keeping good care of myself emotionally, spiritually, and physically. So
And we all know where we're struggling. I mean, a lot of this is just about, come on, we're in our 50s now, or 40s or 50s or 60s, as I am, and it's really time to be honest with yourself. You know where you're struggling. You know if you're drinking a little too much. You know if you're not working out. You know if you're eating junk food. You know if you're filling yourself full of sweets. You know if you're a negative person. You know if you're a complainer. And look at the people, and I hate to say this, but look at the people you hang out with. Who are the people that you're choosing to give your time to? Your time is your most valuable asset. Who are you giving it to? Who are you spending time with? Because that's kind of indicative of who you are and who you think you are and where you think you belong. Going back to the dating, what kind of men are you hanging out with? Maybe it's time to put that guy that's drinking a bottle of tequila every night and chain smoking out in front of the bar, put him to the side. I don't know.
I have one more thing to say with the aging. I always had this thing about I want to grow up before I die, and that means to just really to pay attention to the areas where I know that I'm living small, or that I haven't really stepped out into the light, and to really own who I am and what I'm doing in my life, and to take on challenges. So that's part of what keeps me sort of alive and vital, is knowing that I'm stretching myself. As we are here today on a radio show, being a self-professed introvert, but it's just taking on those challenges, and you feel so good every time you step out of that comfort zone, every time you take on something that's just a little bit bigger than you are. And I think that's what keeps you young, it keeps you happy, and it keeps you wanting to keep living long and healthy life.
Exciting.
It does, exactly.
I was going to say, in the reinvention category, and I was in a long-term relationship and a long-term marriage, a 35-year relationship, and I had a totally different career for 30 years. I was a television commercial producer, and I had in my back pocket the health and fitness business because 20 years ago, October will be 20 years for me for teaching spin. I became a spin instructor. Thank you. I deserve that. I am one of the older spin instructors out there, but I teach at 4 different studios right now. I teach 4 classes a week minimum, and I love it. And I loved it when I started doing it, but I did it as a hobby. And lo and behold, I turned my health and fitness business into a full-time job after my marriage fell apart. And one of the things that happened to me instantly, and we have to understand, life has its ups and downs, and it isn't joyous. It isn't, what was I going to say? It isn't, everything is wine and roses, or I shouldn't say wine, but everything is roses and smells great 100% of the time. What we see and what the images that are in magazines and TV shows, that is not necessarily what a person's life is like. So how we cope with the downs is really what you were just saying, is the most important way to keep moving forward as we age. And I know I had a year of a really tough year where I didn't date. I was in the survival mode. I have no idea whether I'm going to be sitting on a park bench looking and begging for food, or whether I'll be able to live in a home again and have a yard and have a life with somebody that's relevant to me, besides how important my kids were. I had no idea what the future looked like, and I was really blindsided and in a fog for a while. But I always had a positive attitude. I always knew that there was a better road for me, a better outcome for me. And one of the ways I knew that was that I kept doing little things, and I kept thinking positively. I kept doing things towards that, like you were saying, that I was a little afraid to do. I would do it. I would meet those fears. And even though they might have made me feel sick, and I would be, days before I thought I can't conquer this, I would do it. And now it's brought me to this really great place where now I have lots of certifications and lots of clients and a lot of different ways to help people. And I feel so empowered fast forward 5 years later than I did 5 years ago. And I know I'm on a road that's moving up. And I'm not saying like if I can do it, anybody can do it.
I got this feeling inside my bones. It goes electric wavy when I turn it on. Off from my city, off from my home. We're flying up no ceiling when we cannot see.
Hi, we are back live after a slight technical difficulty. Nothing to do with us. There was a blackout on the street, but we are up and running again and back with the beautiful Lucinda Bassett. And I just have one final question to ask for you, and that is, if you could give the younger Lucinda Bassett some wonderful words of wisdom, what would they be?
Probably, don't be in such a hurry. This particular generation, and even myself, I wanted everything, and I wanted it to happen now, and I wanted my own business. And I would say everything is a process. Just calm down and slow down, and know you're where you're supposed to be, and this is part of the journey. And everything you do is going to lead to something else that will end up somewhere where you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Yeah. So don't be in such a hurry. Life is a process. Enjoy the journey.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, and I would agree with that. I often, part of the thing that keeps me going in life a lot is to just always receive the lesson from it.
Right.
It makes it worthwhile, whether you're having the good day, the bad day, or whatever. But final words on that, Debbie?
Well, I see we have a caller. I wonder if we have time. Do we have time to take one call right now?
Yeah.
Let's see if we can take a call from a caller and hopefully help them. Hello? Are you there? Hello?
Hey, caller, where are you calling from? She probably got caught up in our blackout.
Oh, we did it again. We lost our caller. Oh, darn.
Well, if you're listening, you can call back. We just have a few more minutes here.
Yes.
But in the meantime, we'll ask Lucinda to once again give her contact information for anybody interested in coaching privately with Lucinda. She's amazing.
Well, if you're interested in a free 10-minute call with me to see if you're a good candidate for coaching, go to my website at lucindahelps.com, and it's one word, lucindahelps.com, and set up a call with me, and we'll see if you might be interested in I do a 4-week coaching program, and I talk with you about everything from anxiety and depression to just figuring out a roadmap for your life. So I would love to have the opportunity to talk with you. And ladies, it's been such a great pleasure to talk with you guys today. This has been a lot of fun.
Lucinda, thank you so much for taking the time out to do this. Hopefully we said some things that resonated with a few people that are visiting our show for the very first time. Del and I would like to invite you back. We're going to be here every Tuesday at 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Pacific time, and we invite you to watch live. We'll be posting the shows on all types of social media afterwards, but be part of the conversation with us. I'm Debi Carlin Boyle. I'm a wellness coach and fitness instructor, fitbydesignla.com, and Del?
I'm DelADJones.com, and I'm a relationship and divorce coach, and I would love to hear from you. If you need any help in any of those areas, please give me a call.
Thank you so much, Del. I'm just so thrilled we got through our first show. We had a little bit of divine intervention here today, and thank you for listening and watching, and we'll see you next week.
Lucinda, it was amazing. Thank you so much.
Good luck, girls.
Wise woman guest.
All right. Girl power.
Thanks.
Nowhere to hide when I'm getting you close. When we move, well, you already know. So just imagine. Nothing that I can see but you when you dance. Feel a good creeping up.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and hosts of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.